What's up, Giants fans? Welcome back to the Giants Report. I'm your host, Nick Dais, and today we're doing our first 7-round NFL mock draft where we give a pick for every single draft pick the New York Giants have. Before we get to that, some housekeeping notes. We're using the draftnetwork.com site where all the picks that are not the Giants are being auto-picked. I will then give you the pick that I think the Giants should make when their pick is up, and I'll give you some of the options that we had. You guys in the video, in the comments below, make sure to let us know what you guys would do when the Giants are up and what the selection is going to be. With that being said, before we get into it, let's list off all the draft picks the New York Giants have in the 2019 NFL Draft. Along with the New England Patriots, they own the most draft capital with 12 draft picks in the 2019 Draft. Starting with 2 first-round picks at 6 overall and 17 overall from Cleveland, the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. Then we have the second round, the 37th pick overall. Then in the third round, the 95th pick overall from New England through Cleveland. Then we have 2 picks in the 4th round, pick 108 and pick 132 from the New Orleans Saints, the Eli Apple deal. Rounding off the 5th round, back-to-back selections, 142nd pick from San Francisco through Detroit. And the Giants own the 143rd pick of their own in the 5th round. And then they get a compensatory pick, the 171st pick of the 5th round. 6th round, they only have 1 pick, the 180th overall. And then 2 picks via trade in the 7th round to round off the NFL Draft for the New York Giants. In the 7th round, 232 overall from Minnesota and 245 from the Los Angeles Rams. Before we run through every single pick, there are a couple things that I want to address with the New York Giants, and that is their biggest needs. Look, the Giants, it's very obvious they have a couple of needs in particular, and we'll start off with the 4 positions that I think the Giants need to address the most in this NFL Draft. We'll start off with the quarterback. Yes, Eli Manning, 38 years old. He is no longer the quarterback he once was. The worst thing that's happened to the Giants was that 11-5 season in 2016 that gave the team false hopes. That was sandwiched in between a 6-10, 6-10 season, and then it followed up with a 3-13 season. He hasn't posted a positive DVOA since 2014, and he hasn't been a top 20 quarterback in QBR since 2015. I love Eli Manning. I'm a big-time Giants fan. I'm probably going to name my first son Eli. But your time is up, and we need to move on. Quarterback is something the New York Giants need to address in this year's draft. Another position of need, wide receiver. Now that Odell Beckham Jr. is gone, we have Tate and we have Sterling Shepard, but they both run their routes from the slot position. We need a big body. We need an explosive guy on the outside. Basically, 3 guys the New York Giants have, Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, and Golden Tate, all primarily run and are most effective out of the slot position, so you need some guys at the X and Y positions on the outside. Next up, a pass rusher. Look, JPP, despite having, I don't even know how many fingers he had, he was a dominant pass rusher for the Giants for a long time. He's been out the door now for a year, and they just lost Olivier Vernon, the big free agent from a couple years ago, to the Cleveland Browns. So they do need some pass rush on the outside. And last but not least, I mean, when's the last time the New York Giants drafted a linebacker that was capable of playing every single down? It's been a long, long time. The only name that comes to mind is Kiwanuka way back in the early 2000s. With that being said, I think linebacker is another position of need for the New York Giants. We're about to dive into the draft order and the draft selections that I've made for the New York Giants, but I have a question to the audience. I want to get an understanding of how you guys like to maneuver throughout the NFL Draft. Are you someone that likes to draft for need or BPA, best player available? Look, I am a believer of, unless it's the quarterback position in particular and the Giants are facing that, I'm not going to really reach for any other position. If it's a position of need and it's quarterback, I'll go and get one if I really like one. Spoiler, I'm not really a big fan of any of the quarterbacks in this draft, but I do tend to take best player available. So let me know, are you team need or are you team best player available? Leave some comments in the comments below. Let's start off with the number 6 pick the New York Giants have, and I'm going with linebacker Devin White. He is an every down linebacker in this era of the NFL. He's not afraid to bang and slam into people left and right. He's a very aggressive guy coming out of LSU. The Butkus Award winner last year as the best linebacker in the whole nation. And he's one of those see ball, go get ball kind of players. Look, he's a read and react kind of guy, and that's what you need in the NFL nowadays. You need linebackers that could play both the run and the pass, and he's one of those guys that with the right coaching and in the right system, I think he could be one of those players. Some of the other options that we had over there for the Giants, Jaywan Taylor, the offensive tackle from Florida, Rashawn Gary, the edge rusher from Michigan, Ed Oliver, the inside defensive lineman from Houston, and DK Metcalf, a wide receiver from Ole Miss. I think that the Giants should go with number 6. With the 6th pick overall, they should take Devin White and address that linebacker position that they have seemed to kind of ignore for a long period of time. Next up, pick number 17, I got the Giants taking Christian Wilkins, inside defensive lineman from Clemson. Look, he is a 3-technique defensive tackle. We talked about in a video prior about another member of the Clemson defensive line, but basically Phil Steele in his football almanac, where he previews every single season, every single unit, every single player, he said that the Clemson defensive line is one of the best units in college football he's seen in all his years of doing this. Look, the Clemson defensive line was the biggest reason why, along with Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback, why Clemson won another national title. This guy in particular, Wilkins, is a 60-start player in college. This is a guy that has got a lot of reps and a lot of big game experience too. 60 starts, he's won 2 national championships, one with Trevor Lawrence recently, and the other one with Deshaun Watson a couple years ago. So there's a guy that is desperately needed for the New York Giants. Their depth chart right now is Dalvin Tomlinson, a 2nd-round pick from a few years ago from Alabama, and BJ Hill. That's all they really have at the inside defensive lineman position. And Christian Wilkes, with his experience and his leadership, is the kind of guy that could change the culture in the locker room for the New York Giants on the defensive side. Some of the other options that we have here are Devin Bush, linebacker from Michigan. Once again, DK Metcalf, wide receiver from Ole Miss, Jonah Williams from Alabama, and Greedy Williams, the cornerback from LSU. As we move on to pick number 37 in the 2nd round, I am going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to propose a trade, and I think this trade is going to go through. I'm going to give up pick number 37 in the 2nd round, pick number 95 in the 3rd round, and next year's 2nd round pick in 2020 for one Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, in my power rankings, was the 2nd best quarterback in last year's draft behind Sam Darnold. And if you were to take Josh Rosen and just plunk him into this year's draft class, he would be the overwhelming number 1 pick in the draft. Everybody is low on Josh Rosen, and that is because he had a very shitty campaign with the Arizona Cardinals. One of the worst offensive rosters in the league, worst offensive line in the league. They fired their head coach after 1 season. They had a new offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich after, I believe, week 5 or 6. And despite how bad it was, his numbers with the Cardinals, Josh Rosen's that is, were better. The Cardinals were better with Josh Rosen in the lineup. I think you could buy really low on Josh Rosen. And if I'm giving you 2 2nd-round picks, one this year, one next year, and my 3rd-round pick, I think that is something that can be done. Question to the audience. Do you guys think that this trade bundle is enough to land Josh Rosen to the New York Giants? Give us a yes or no answer, and give us a reason why you think it is a good deal and why you think it might not be a good deal for the New York Giants. As we move on to pick 108 in the 4th round, I got the Giants taking Khalen Saunders, inside defensive lineman for Western Illinois. He's only 6 foot, but he's 320 pounds, so he clogs up holes. He reminds me a little bit of Haloti Ngata, in the sense that Haloti Ngata, when he got drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Lewis came out and said, oh my God, it's going to free up space for me to roam around. This is a dude that could take 1 to 2 blockers on, and it could open up space for a Devin White to roam around there and make some plays in the backfield. He's also from a small town. He's a small town boy who dominated in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. He comes from a small university from Western Illinois, but he went up against big name players at the Senior Bowl, and he really stood out. A lot of coaches were saying how he was a guy that really caught their attention. So I think in the 4th round, you just address that inside defensive lineman position that the New York Giants are lacking. Look, we talked about it before when the Giants took Christian Wilkins. The depth chart is really small. You know, they really only have 2 guys on the roster that I think is going to make the 53 come August, and that's Dalvin Tomlinson and BJ Hill, and now you pair him up Saunders, that is, along with Christian Wilkins. I think that's a nice defensive line that you have there, that inside defensive line for the New York Giants. Some of the other options that you're going to have here are quarterback Will Grier from West Virginia, Justice Hill, running back from Oklahoma State, Khalen Warren, tight end from San Diego State, and Dylan Mitchell, the wide receiver from the Pac-12's very own Oregon Ducks. Speaking of wide receiver, that's where I think the Giants go at pick 132 in the 4th round. He is Antoine Wesley from Texas Tech University. He's a big body wide receiver. That's one of the biggest needs I think the Giants have. And he's sort of a speedster. You know, he's a big wide receiver in the red zone. He is 6'5". He has the highest catch rate, according to PFF, in traffic of all the wide receivers in this class. And he could go up and get it at a high point. Look, a lot of times you see there are some wide receivers that just come in red zone packages. And I think this is going to be something for one Antoine Wesley. Other options here for the New York Giants would have been Justin Hollins, edge rusher from Oregon, Zedrick Woods, safety from Mississippi, Daniel Weiss, another defensive lineman on the inside from Kansas, and Corey Ballantyne from Washburn University at quarterback. Look, the New York Giants, their depth chart is really, really weak at wide receiver on the outsides. The only outside wide receivers that they really have are Corey Coleman and Cody Lattimore. That's not really doing it for me. Sorry, Corey Coleman. I know you were a first-round pick from Baylor, but I don't know. It's just not something that excites me. I think this big body guy on the outside seems to have the frame that you're looking for in the red zone as well. So I really like Antoine Wesley from Texas Tech University. Before we get to the 5th round where the New York Giants open up with back-to-back draft picks, let's take a moment to make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel Chat Sports TV, and you like some of the videos. Hit that like button there and leave some more comments below. Tell us what you think about the video thus far and all the videos on the channel. Picks 142 and 143 are back-to-back picks for the New York Giants, and I have them taking a quarterback here. Look, I know it might be a little bit confusing because we just traded to get a quarterback, but remember what the Redskins did in the 2012 draft. In the 1st round, they trade up, they get RG3, and then they also draft Kirk Cousins too. And what ended up happening? RG3 got hurt, Kirk Cousins stepped in, he became a franchise quarterback for the next couple of years before they decided not to re-sign him, and he went on to Minnesota. I don't think there's anything wrong. Look, there is a possibility that Josh Rosen could be damaged goods from Arizona. It could be a case where Josh Rosen got so beat up last year, one of the most sacked quarterbacks, and mind you, he only played double-digit games, about 10 to 11 games he started for the Arizona Cardinals. So I don't see nothing wrong with Will Grier. Look, just in case Josh Rosen flops, he comes from a pro-style offense, and he has clutch. He has clutch genes too. There's a guy that the moment isn't too big for him. He did transfer schools also. He had some issues over at Florida before he ended up on West Virginia. But I see nothing wrong here. I see nothing wrong with taking another quarterback and hoping one of the two hit. Look, Eli Manning is 38 years old, and getting more young quarterbacks in there. Eli Manning still is knowledgeable enough to teach some of these young guys. I see nothing wrong with this and taking Will Grier here at pick 142 in the 5th round. I also think that this was a BPA kind of selection. Will Grier shouldn't be up here. There's some rumblings that he might be a day 2 selection in the 2nd or 3rd round. So the fact I'm getting him in the 5th round, I think that says a lot for this selection right here. Next up, the very next pick, I'm taking Mark Fields from Clemson, the Clemson cornerback, speedster, 4'3", 40. And he has the speed and the burst to be an elite cornerback. He's a top 100 talent, but he has some red flags because of his off the field stuff. Look, he was suspended for a game earlier this year. He has no starts with Clemson, and Clemson's defensive coordinator is one of the best ones in the whole college football landscape. And so is Dabo Swinney, one of the best college football minds in the whole country. So I think with Mark Fields, this is just a wild card kind of scenario where if this guy does get his head on straight and he does have the speed and the physical tools to be an everyday starter for the New York Giants. Look, the New York Giants on the outside, they have Janoris Jenkins, and that's about it. Tony Lippett, thank you, next. I am not going out on the field with Tony Lippett. I think Mark Fields could be an interesting choice for the Giants at 143. Some of the other options for the New York Giants are Joe Jackson, edge rusher from Miami, Dontavius Russell, a defensive lineman from Auburn, Jaron Stidham, another quarterback from Auburn, and also Sutton Smith, edge rusher from Northern Illinois. So since the Giants had back-to-back picks, I decided to tell you the options that were available after both picks were made. Next up in the 5th round at pick 171, a very versatile safety, Sheldrick Redwine safety from Miami, from the U. Look, he's very versatile. He made the change when he first got to Miami from cornerback to safety. And I think it's something that you need to be able to do in this modern NFL. He's good enough in pass coverage. I think that's his best asset when he comes to the next level. And he's a guy that can cover your tight ends, especially these hybrid tight ends like your Travis Kelce's, like your Zach Ertz, like your Evan Ingrams. And he's also quick enough that he could guard your Danny Amendolas and your slot guys like Golden Tate. The one issue I have with Sheldrick Redwine from Miami is that he doesn't trust his instincts as much as he could, and he has that mold of those traditional free safeties coming from the U. So I really like Redwine coming out of Miami, and I think that he can make noise at the next level. As we look through some of our papers here, as we get to the next pick, in the 6th round, this is a very interesting selection because the Giants wasted the number 2 overall pick on a running back last year. But I think in the 6th round, pick 180, I'm going with the son of a former heavyweight champion, and that is Elijah Holyfield, running back from Georgia. He's one of the top running backs in the draft. I'm a little surprised that when I was doing this draft tracker mock draft that he was still here. I think he could be a starter in the NFL right away. Think of a guy like Sony Michel. I know Sony Michel went in the 1st round, but I really like him too. Look, in my opinion, he's a sleeper running back of this class. His father was Evander Holyfield, so you know he has those like freak of nature genes in him. It's just like a family thing. And he's a power back that tends to carry people. From watching some of his tapes, and Georgia's one of the teams that I got to see a lot last year, he is a guy that was able to carry people for extra yards. The one big knock on him in this modern NFL, this new school NFL where pass catching running backs are really important, he only caught 7 passes, similar to Sony Michel. It seems like Georgia always has a 1-2 punch of a guy that is a bell cow, in between the tackles kind of guy, like Elijah Holyfield is, and then you have a guy that in the same breath like a Sony Michel, who I think is a nice comparison for Elijah Holyfield. That's the kind of guy that doesn't really catch a lot of passes. Look, even in New England with the Patriots, Sony Michel doesn't really catch many passes. Probably has single-digit catches with the Patriots since he got there. So I really like Elijah Holyfield here. Some of the other options for the New York Giants here in the 6th round, pick 180, are Donnie Lewis Jr. from Tulane, cornerback, Kyrie Willis, safety from Michigan State. We got Stanley Morgan Jr., wide receiver from Nebraska, and then we have another Georgia Bulldog, Terry Godwin, at the wide receiver position. As we move into the 7th round, at this point, it's basically BPA. Take any position of need you need, and take the best player available at that said position. So for me, 7th round, pick 232. I'm going with Isaiah Prince from Ohio State, the offensive tackle. Look, the Giants need all the help they can get on the offensive line. Much improved. They have wasted both free agency money and some high draft picks, Will Hernandez in particular in the 2nd round last year, on this offensive line. But they need the help and they need the depth. And he's pretty athletic for his size, 6'6", 310. But some of the red flags with him, a lot of people at Ohio State said that he was an underachiever. They expected a lot more from him. So that's one of the reasons why he's fallen all the way to the 7th round. Some of the other selections here that the New York Giants could have had: Keyshawn Johnson, no, not that Keyshawn Johnson, wide receiver from Fresno State. Deshaun Davis, linebacker from Auburn. Alexander Madison, running back from Boise State. And Bruce Anderson, running back from North Dakota State, are just some of the other options here for the New York Giants in the 7th round, pick 232. And with the last pick in the draft for the New York Giants, pick number 245 in the 7th round, the Giants need to address the linebacker position once again, and enough linebackers isn't a problem. Let's go with Dre Greenlaw from Arkansas. He is a ball hawk and a tackling machine. He is small and does get blocked easily by oncoming blockers, but he's a very fast and explosive linebacker with a 4.53 40 time at his pro day. Some of the other options that we have here for the New York Giants are Ty Johnson, running back from Maryland, Tyrone Johnson, wide receiver from Oklahoma State, Ryan Finley, the quarterback from NC State, and TJ Edwards, the linebacker from Wisconsin. I hit you guys with a lot of information and a lot of names. I hope you enjoyed the video. With that being said, I'm at The Lamb Show on all social media outlets. And until next time, I'll see you later.